So hello again. This next game that I'm going to show you on my top 10 favorite chess games list features the game between Tigran Vartanovich Petrosian and Boris Vasilyevich Spassky from their 1966 World Chess Championship match played in Moscow. I'm sure you're gonna enjoy this. This is a positional masterpiece. And what would like to know before you see this game is that Petrosian, who plays the white pieces, has been known for a provocative play, so that he would often allow his opponent to overextend and only then go into the attack, which you will see in this game. So Petrosian started with knight f3, knight f6 from Spassky, g3, g6, both sides playing very, let's say, calmly this opening, just developing their pieces, getting their kings into safe spots. And after knight c6, knight c3, d6, d4. Now Petrosian gets some more space in the center, but that's nothing special. a6 and d5. So with d5, Petrosian locks down the pawn structure a bit and kicks this knight from c6, which goes to a5 with the attack on the c4 pawn, which is now defended with knight to d2. So, okay, Petrosian moved his knight twice in the opening, but so did Spassky, so that's nothing really special. c5, a bit closing down the queen side. Queen c2, simply developing the pieces. Kind of also preventing maybe bishop f5, looking to play e4 maybe. Also, the queen will keep a watchful eye on the pawn c4 if this knight ever moves, so a good move by Petrosian. e5 by Spassky. Now Spassky is attempting to win a lot of space in the center. Now he's surely planning f5 and will try to extend his influence over the center. Now it might be tempting to take this pawn en passant for some, but you never really want to do that in this type of opening, because after f takes e6, actually black has a lot of space in the center and a lot of pawns there. As you can see, only 2 pawns here and 3 pawns here for black. This is certainly to black's advantage, speaking of structures. That's why Petrosian played b3. He's getting ready to kind of initiate a fight for this diagonal. The dark square bishop of black is very strong, and it's soon going to be challenged by the black's dark square bishop. Knight g4. So Spassky is making space for this pawn to go to f5. Also, maybe this knight may be a little bit uncomfortable for Petrosian. Who plays e4, simply locks down the e-pawns. Also now has the option to capture on f5 if it's played, and it was. It was taken by Petrosian. Spassky took back. Now, this is the beginning of what I said is going to happen in this game. So as you can see, there are not many pawns around the black king, but they all moved forwards. So now, actually it turns out that Spassky has a very good position to attack, but if one day Petrosian manages to get his queen somehow behind those pawns, well, then it may be very dangerous for the black king. So knight d1 by Petrosian, a typical move of his, let's say, just retreating the piece, getting ready to get bishop to b2 simply to get this exchanged as quickly as possible. And also maybe looking to come to d3, get this knight into play, because from c3 it really has no options of any advancement here. I guess that's a good move. After knight d1, b5, you don't really win anything with a move like e4 with a discovered attack on the rook. Petrosian will simply play bishop b2 and challenge the bishop, and after the exchange we can see that the queen's influence over this diagonal is pretty good. Black would at some point probably have to play queen f6 and go for the exchange of queens, and now we see that these pawns are a little bit overextended and can potentially become targets. For instance, in this case, white rook will always keep an eye on the weak pawn on f5. So that would be good for Petrosian. That's why Spassky played b5, simply getting on with the action on the queen's side, trying perhaps to exchange on c4 or even push b5. We would see that. And now f3 by Petrosian. It may seem that this move weakens all of the pawns around, but in fact it's not really bad. This time Spassky decided to play e4. Of course, the knight is untouchable. If you take it, then of course Spassky would take the rook on a1, so that's just winning for black. Well, maybe not winning, but definitely to black's advantage. So white, as planned, challenges the bishop on g7. Now, of course, e takes f3. Probably a bit better was bishop takes on b2, leading to probably kind of the same type of the position that we saw previously, with black having this weak pawn on f5. But okay, e takes f3, also a very good move. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes b2, queen takes b2, transposing into the position that I just shown, and knight e5. So, okay, now the knight occupies a very active post. As you can see, it controls a lot of squares in white's camp, and also blocks this diagonal, which can be potentially used by the queen. And here, of course, black has this weak f5 pawn on which white could potentially capitalize on, but well, we shall soon see what happens. Bishop e2, so not only making space for the rook, but also defending the pawn on c4, which was currently hanging. And f4. This is a good solution for Spassky, actually, because he gets rid of the weak pawn at a cost of one of the defenders of Petrosian. So that's very good. Petrosian took with a g-pawn, which probably is not the best move. According to the engine, the best move is rook takes on f4, and after rook takes f4, g takes f4, and knight g6, this position is around equal. Because white does not have a lot of pieces in play just yet, and black will have time to consolidate his position. This pawn is isolated, but it's also passed, so most likely the side which will take advantage of this pawn will stand better. But Petrosian didn't take with a rook, he took with a pawn, opening up this g file, which could be dangerous, but well, still. Here Spassky played bishop to h3, which is the first mistake of his in this game. The best move here was rook takes f4, a tactical solution, sacrificing the rook, but for a brief moment, because after queen to g5, you actually regain this rook quite easily. After king h1, simply queen takes f4, and we can see that this king is very weak, and there is no winning chances for white. But I'm sure at this point Spassky was probably counting on something more, and he played bishop h3, getting another piece involved. And what he was probably expecting was that maybe Petrosian will move his rook to f2, after which, well, this tactic is even stronger. Well, now it's actually completely a winning position, I would say. Knight takes g4. The attack is very strong, already like -1.5 for black. But Petrosian had a different idea in mind. He played the first star move of the game, knight to e3, sacrificing the rook on f1. So, well, there is a better move than taking the rook, and it's still rook takes f4. This tactical solution is still there, but Spassky didn't use it. He simply grabbed the rook on f1, thinking that, okay, he just won the exchange. But this is actually a brilliant sacrifice by Petrosian, who simply took back with the rook. So now he actually didn't lose anything on certain measures, let's say, because he exchanged one of his attacking pieces for one of Spassky's attacking pieces, and by doing that also brought one of his pieces into the game, which basically is let's say a worth trade for him. So after knight g6, of course the knight was attacked, it has to move. Not sure if that was the best. The engine suggests knight d7, but I don't really see the difference between the two. And after knight g4, here comes the point of Petrosian. He actually saw that the diagonals here and here are pretty weak. Black does not have any bishop to watch out for these squares, and actually can build big attack with this move bishop to g4. So the bishop is coming to e6 and you cannot stop that. Well, the best move here according to the engine is not what Spassky played. Spassky went for a pawn, took on f4, which is a blunder. The better move was queen f6, and after bishop e6 he would play king h8, and then after the exchange of queens, then f5 would of course be very strong, and Petrosian would still be slightly better after knight e4, after knight e4, kicking the rook away from f6, so let's say rook f8, and c takes b5, a takes b5, knight takes d6. This is a very good position for white, but definitely not winning. However, in this case, after Spassky went for a pawn, well, now Petrosian has basically a winning continuation with another sparkling move. Rook takes f4. Another brilliant exchange sacrifice, the second one in this game. Well, Spassky has nothing better than just to take it, perhaps. Also, queen g5 is potentially working, but still is losing after rook to e4. Black simply cannot really do anything. There is no move that allows him to contribute to the position. For instance, if he tries to win the bishop on g5, and actually the best move here is h4, kicking the queen away. And if the queen still tries to win this bishop, then actually rook e6, so okay, let's say queen g7 maybe to avoid it, but then queen takes g7. So you cannot really win the bishop, and white still has a very strong position. So after knight takes, rook takes, Spassky took with the rook, winning another exchange, but allowing this bishop to e6. And remember, look at how strong this control of these diagonals is. Spassky blocked with rook to f7, which is the only move. If king f8 is played, then actually queen h8 check. And if, well, now it's of course the only one move is legal, king e7, queen takes h7 check. If king here, then queen h5 check, king e7, queen g5 check, winning the rook. Could be played. Yeah, of course, if rook here, then simply knight f5 wins immediately, because after king e8, queen g8 check, rook f8. Now actually it's, I guess, where's the mate? Queen g6, rook f7, and queen takes f7, yeah. So that's just basically winning. If he does not block with the rook, if he goes back to e8, then we simply take on f4, and still this is completely winning. Black pieces are not contributing to the defense of the king. So that would be pretty deadly. So Spassky decided to give the exchange back, hoping that maybe Petrosian will take it with his bishop, but he doesn't do anything like that. He plays knight e4, simply getting another piece into the attack, getting ready to go to f6, also taking control of g5 square, which could potentially be used by the queen for some tactics. So queen h4 with the attack on the knight, with potential threats to come to the g file and maybe cause some damage against the white king. Knight takes d6. So now there is a double attack on the rook. White is threatening to win a rook for free, and black cannot move it. So he has to defend it with the other rook. But first he gives the check, forces Petrosian to go to h1, but there is no more checks, so he's got to defend it. He played rook to f7, a7. Better move according to the engine is simply queen to g7, but this is still losing. After bishop takes f7, king h8, and queen c1, this is a dominating position. White is up a pawn and has two knights, has a knight and a bishop for a rook, and still holds the advantage here. If we just go down the computer line, after bishop e6, rook f8, white pieces are just coming for black. Queen c3, queen f1, h6, knight f7. It has to be sacrificed. there's really no move. King probably steps to h7, then simply knight h4 wins, just making space for the queen to come. No defense. That is why Spassky just played rook a7, hoping to trade into this endgame, in which perhaps he has some chances, being just one pawn down. But it did not happen, and okay, Petrosian captured with a bishop actually, seeing a brilliant tactic again. After the rook recaptured, Petrosian played one of the sweetest moves, I would say, that I have ever seen, and it is the move, well, you can pause the video if you want and find it yourselves, but it's a pretty unexpected one and very beautiful one. Queen to h8, sacrificing the queen with check, forcing the king to take it, and after knight takes f7, the knight wins the rook and forks the king and the queen, winning the queen the next move. And what ends up happening is simply Petrosian emerges up a knight and the pawn with a completely winning endgame. And the move queen to h8 check was so powerful that it forced immediate resignation from Boris Spassky, and that's the way you should win all the games, I would say. Very beautiful finisher by Tigran Vartanovich Petrosian. I hope you enjoyed it, and that you will remember both of the exchange sacrifices that Petrosian made here by playing first knight e3, getting rid of the defender of the light squares that he later exploits with the bishop, and after knight g3, just what happened is absolutely amazing. After knight takes f4, another exchange sacrifice just to come to e6 with the bishop, and after rook takes check, these diagonals killed the king, forced the rook to f7, and well, then absolutely brilliant finisher with this queen to h8. Outstanding move, definitely. Very effective win, I would say. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye.